Okay, welcome to Video Reel P5J002. This is the second in a series of videos where I'm going to show you how to code a von Neumann block diagram using P5.js. As you can see on the screen, this is the standard, or my version of the standard von Neumann architecture block diagram. All of this information can be found in the, I'll place a link in the description below. As I said in the last video, I'm not just going to recreate the standard von Neumann. I'm going to have some fun with it, and I'm going to recreate the von Neumann architecture in the image of one of these all-terrain snowcat style vehicles. So I've done a bit of research. I've found links to these images. The top image that I've got highlighted will give me the color codes, the hexadecimal color codes that I can use to code the colors, and this diagram will be useful in recreating a technical drawing using CorelDraw that will give me the dimensions that I need to draw the geometric shapes in P5.js. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is just go back to the presentation. I'm going to open up the project that I created in the first lesson. So I'm going to go P5.js, go to the editor. I've already logged in. So I'm just going to go in my sketches and I'm going to create or open up von Army truck. Now the piece of information that I'm looking for in this, that I need in order to create the design, is the actual overall size, 1280 pixels by 720. So now I'm just going to go to my desktop. I'm going to double click on the CorelDraw icon. My version of CorelDraw is 2019 Home and Student Edition. You may be using a different version. I know my students at school, they have a version that's slightly more up to date, I think 2021. And because it's a site license, it comes up with a splash screen at the beginning asking you to put in the serial number or whatever. Just hit the skip option at the bottom and it will take you straight through to what you're seeing on the screen right now. It always opens, unfortunately, CorelDraw with this splash screen. This welcome screen. Basically, they're just trying to get you to upgrade. It's a bit annoying, but I'm just going to close it. Now, this is a really good product, and it does so many things. So much so that it can be a bit complicated to use sometimes. So one of the things I'm going to do in this video is just teach you how to set it up in a simple way with all the nuts and bolts and things that you need just to do this simple project. Okay, so the first thing is to make sure that the workspace that you're using is just the default. Okay, now there may be other windows or whatever hanging around. As you can see, they're not here. The palette down the right hand side, the toolbar here, this is the property bar and the file menu. What I'm going to do is just create a new document. First thing I always do is give the document a name, von Army truck. Obviously, whatever design you're going to do, you would give it an appropriate name. I'm going to use the primary color mode RGB, red, green, blue, which is what you'd use for all displays, computer displays. CMYK is more for printed media. Custom page size. Make sure you select pixels. Now make sure you select pixels first, because if you enter the numbers, then decide to go into pixels, it will convert the numbers that you've just put in into something that you don't want. So select pixels first, and I'm just going to go back to the editor, 1280 by 720. So 1 to 80. I'm just hitting tab on the keyboard. 720. Now I'm going to go for 96 dots per inch. 300 dots per inch is the minimum that you would use for printing, but obviously we're doing screen. So you'll notice that because I changed the resolution, the width and height has changed again. So just make sure that you go back and reset the sizes, 1280 by 720. Now click OK. Now the document is presented to you. There are some useful tools. Now most of the things that you're going to be doing, you can access via the properties palette up the top here, the property bar. But I like to use these things called dockers. So if you go Window, Dockers. Now, the key dockers that I suggest you use are, where are we? Transform. As you'll see, the dockers sort of dock to the right of the screen. The next one I want to open up is Align. Now, all this does is enable you to align shapes to either the page or another object, and I'll explain more about that in subsequent videos. And then the final one, Dockers, this is a new one to me, Step and Repeat, because you can actually do Step and Repeat from the Transform menu. But I'm going to give this a go, so we'll see how we go with that. So let's just, I'll go through some of the options down here on the toolbar. Now, if you want to select anything, there's the pick tool. It just enables you to select. I'll just quickly create a rectangle. By the way, if you hit the Control and Shift keys, it constrains things. So if I click and drag the rectangle tool and I hit the Control button, what it does is it constrains it to a square. Or if it was a circle, if I hit Control and then drag, it's a circle, not an oval. If I click and just simply drag, I can drag an ellipse of any shape. Now, if I hit the Shift key, what it does is it actually enables me to manipulate and resize it from the center, which can be sometimes useful. So if I want to select and delete something, I select it with the pick tool and then I hit backspace on the keyboard. Select, backspace, select, backspace. Now I'm just going to hit Control, I'm going to add a square. I'm now going to hit the magnify or zoom tool. Now if I just left mouse click, it zooms in wherever the mouse click is. Now at this point, if you right mouse click, it zooms out, but it always zooms out from the point where you click. The other thing you can do with zoom is click the top left or go to the bar up the top. Now, what I use quite often is fit to page or to fit. Okay, so that's the zoom. I've already explained the shapes. There are some other shapes that you can use. For this particular project, I would suggest that maybe the only shape you use is polygon. And if you, again, I'm hitting Control on the keyboard, you can actually. Now, the reason why it looks jaggedy is because if I go View, it's currently set to pixels. I would always choose Enhanced. If you're using a really rubbish computer with very little processing power, going on to Enhanced may actually slow down the programs and the processing. So anyway, there's a triangle. I've already shown you how to do a circle or ellipse and a rectangle. What else do I want to show you? Oh, yes. The property bar, as I said, along the top. Now, the property bar is useful, and I'll explain more about this in the next video, is that you can use this property bar to position objects. So this is positioning this object at 10 pixels from the left. If I want to position it from the top left corner, I can do that too. Now, the origin or 0, 0 point is in this bottom left-hand corner. Okay, and again, I'll explain a little bit more about that in the next project. In fact, well, why don't we do it now? So to select and delete multiple objects, I'm just going to left mouse click, drag, and then delete. One other thing about the view options is that view, you can actually snap. Again, I'll explain that a little more in the subsequent videos, but just know that it's good to, at this point, to have snap guidelines turned on. View, make sure rulers is visible. I'm going to just select and change the view to page. Now, one of the things I use an awful lot is guidelines. Okay. Now, the way that we can add guidelines is to left mouse click in either the top or the left hand ruler and then drag a guideline onto the screen. And again, drag the guideline onto the screen. Now, you can see that the guideline is selected. So when it's selected, I can actually change its options. So at this point, I think if I put 720 in, it will actually put it to the top of the page. Now, if I do this one, please excuse the bonging noise when I hit enter. Now, in p5.js, the origin of all of the dimensions for each of the shapes is in the top left corner of the page. In CorelDraw, it's in the bottom left. So to actually reset the point of origin, make sure that you have snap to guidelines turned on, and then click this little option up here, left mouse click and drag until it snaps and then release. And from this point forward, everything that you place on the screen, like for example a rectangle, I can now get the dimension, albeit it's in negative form. So I'm going to put this 50 pixels from the left and negative 50, which is 50 pixels from the top left, down, hit enter, and now that's perfectly positioned. Okay, I'll just reset the size from the left corner. I'll make that 300. I'm hitting tab on the keyboard by 180. There we have it. That's a basic intro. If at any point you do something wrong, just go back, reset the workspace and add the various dockers accordingly. One last thing to do, and please make sure that you make sure you do this regularly. CorelDraw is prone to crashing if you're doing things complicated or you do something wrong. So just go File, Save As, and then save the file to your Google Drive or wherever it is that you save your files. Okay, that's it for this video. In the next video, I'll actually start to show you how to import the background images and then start to create the geometric shapes that we're going to actually code in order to construct our p5.js von Neumann block diagram. Okay, thanks for watching.